Have you ever been so sure of a decision, only to wake up the next day and realize how ridiculously stupid it was? You know that feeling when you were 100% right in an argument, or when you bought that thing thinking it was the best investment in the world. Then evening rolls around, you take a step back, and you think, why on earth did I do that? Yeah, that exact feeling. Now, here's the thing. We all like to think of ourselves as highly rational creatures. We wake up, make plans, and assume we're making logical choices. But the truth, it's a whole different story. When you look at the research, the reality is actually kind of hilarious. Almost every decision we make in a day might feel totally logical in the moment, but our brains are quietly tricking us every single day. And it happens to doctors, teachers, CEOs, you name it. It's not about how smart you are. It's all about those sneaky little shortcuts your brain takes. Today, we're going to break down why some of your everyday decisions go off the rails. Why you sometimes follow the crowd even when you don't want to. Why you suddenly lose interest in something you loved, and how you can jump to a massive conclusion from just one tiny example. But most importantly, you'll see how spotting these lazy mind games can instantly make your life, your communication, and your social interactions a whole lot easier. So, without further ado, let's dive into our brain's most famous glitches. The lazy brain and the first impression trap. Our brains are actually pretty lazy. They don't like hard work, so they just assume whatever is easiest to remember, or whatever they see first is the absolute truth. In relationships and everyday communication, the biggest trap we fall into is exactly this. Thinking if it looks good, it must be good. When evaluating someone or something, our brain doesn't play fair. It latches onto one obvious positive trait the second it sees it and just paints everything else with that same brush. For example, if you find someone physically attractive, you automatically start assuming they're smarter, funnier, and more honest. And the reverse is true too. This happens all the time in job interviews. We automatically view a well-dressed, smiling guy as way more competent. And we don't just do this with people, we do it with things too. Imagine a couple looking for a house. If they walk in and the kitchen is absolutely stunning, they suddenly become completely blind to all the flaws in the rest of the house. They'll say, yeah, the living room is tiny, but man, that kitchen is epic. That first impression literally paints over everything. But what happens when this tunnel vision hits us in front of someone with a fancy title? Or someone in a white coat? How does that completely flip our brain switch off? The magic of authority and titles. If there's an authority figure in the room, that critical thinking part of our brain that we trust so much just instantly powers down. In some famous studies, nurses were asked to give medication to a patient in a way that completely violated normal protocols. Normally, they would absolutely never do this. There are literally written rules against it. But when the request came from an authoritative doctor over the phone, almost all of them followed the wrong instructions. The exact same thing happens on airplanes. A co-pilot might see the captain making a glaring mistake, but still hesitate to speak up. It's not out of respect. In that moment, the brain just freezes in the face of authority. In everyday life, this happens when your boss asks you to do something completely ridiculous. Deep down, you know how illogical it is, but in that moment, you just can't bring yourself to object. Why? Because your brain hands over the responsibility to the authority figure. It says, hey, it's their call, not mine, and just relaxes. But you're always the one who ends up paying the price later. So, is it just pressure from the top that silences us? If everyone around you is saying the exact same thing, why does it become so impossible to defend what you know is right? The crowd is always right illusion. We will easily do things in a crowd that we would never, ever do alone. Imagine walking into a room. Everyone is giving the exact same answer to a super simple question, but you can see, plain as day, that the answer is dead wrong, and yet, you keep your mouth shut. This is the famous Asch conformity experiment. People are asked to judge the length of a line, but when everyone else in the room intentionally gives the wrong answer, a huge chunk of the actual participants just cave in and give the wrong answer to. Some do it so they aren't left out, and others actually start doubting themselves, thinking, wait, is there something wrong with my eyes? This happens to us all the time in business meetings or friend groups. If everyone is saying yes to an idea, you might be screaming no on the inside, but you'll still say yes just out of fear of being the outcast. The brain views leaving the herd or being alone as a massive risk. In fact, if you see someone lying on the street, the more people there are around, the less likely you are to help. Everyone just looks at someone else, the responsibility totally evaporates. But our brain's weirdness isn't just about the outside world. When it comes to our own choices and our own beliefs, that's when things get really crazy. Protecting your beliefs and bending the facts. Once the human brain believes something, it stops acting like a judge and starts acting like a defense attorney. It only gathers evidence that supports that belief. As for any proof that says otherwise, it either runs from it, ignores it, or masterfully twists it to fit its own narrative. For instance, if you get mad at your partner and slap that bad label on them, even the most normal things they do will start to get on your nerves. If a good friend did the exact same thing, you just laugh it off. But once the label changes, the facts stay the same, but your interpretation completely flips. The brain loves bending the truth just to prove itself right. It would rather invite uncomfortable lies than deal with uncomfortable truths. When your filter is broken, you can gather all the new info you want. But since you're only pulling from one side, you just end up being more wrong. And on top of that, the brain has a massive weakness when it comes to numbers. We love building a whole entire world out of one tiny example. You look up a restaurant, see the bad reviews online, and say, I am never going there. Meanwhile, that place might be serving excellent meals to 100 people a day. You miss the bus twice in a row and think, this always happens to me. I have the worst luck. You're literally writing the constitution of your life based on two events. The brain is a master at putting tiny numbers in front of the big picture, the power of choice and the fear of losing. Out of all this irrationality, maybe the weirdest part is this: the second your ability to choose is taken away, you instantly lose interest even in something you loved. In one experiment, kids were allowed to pick out a toy. Then the researcher comes back and says, they're all the same anyway. Here, I'm giving you this one, and hands the kid the exact toy they had just chosen. But purely because their freedom of choice was taken away, the kid instantly doesn't want that toy anymore. The exact same thing happens in hospitals. A patient who gets to choose between alternative surgeries experiences way less anxiety than a patient who just says, whatever you think is best, doc. Because the feeling of control changes everything in human psychology. When someone forces you to do something, even if it's the greatest gift in the world, you just don't want it. And when the fear of losing gets involved, things get even more absurd. Our brains act like two completely different accountants when we're winning versus when we're losing. If someone tells you, you are guaranteed to win $50, you take it right away. You play it safe. But if they say, you're guaranteed to lose $50, or you have a 50-50 shot of losing $100, you instantly turn into a gambler. Supermarkets know this all too well. Instead of writing save $100, they create the perception that if you miss the deal, you will lose $100. And that makes you run to the store a whole lot faster. So what about that blind stubbornness we have with things we've invested time and money into? The sunk cost trap. It's the illusion that just because you poured a ton of time, money, or effort into something, it must be valuable. You buy a movie ticket and in the first 20 minutes, you realize the movie is absolute garbage. Do you walk out? Most people don't. Why? They say, I already paid for it. It'd be a waste. But here's the thing. That money is already gone if you stay, on top of the money you lost. You're now losing the most valuable thing you have, your time, which you can never get back. This happens all the time in toxic relationships, failing projects, and dead-end jobs. We say, I've put years into this. I can't just quit after trying so hard. The brain wants to look consistent, otherwise it's going to feel stupid. So we keep going, even when we're taking a loss. The truth is, that never give up lie that motivational pages constantly pump out is sometimes our biggest enemy. Sometimes, the smartest move you can make is just to quit. Quitting isn't failing, it's protecting the last few resources you have left. Alright, we've walked step by step through how our brains trick us from the inside, and how they make us melt into the crowd. There's no magic wand to fix it all, but there are a few clear practical solutions to help you take the wheel back in your daily life. Number 1. Before making a decision, use the 10-minute rule. Just because someone spoke really well, or someone with a fancy title asked for something, or everyone in the room agrees, do not decide right then and there. Wait 10 minutes, step away from the situation. When your brain's autopilot mode turns off, your actual logic will kick in. Number 2. Wipe out past cost and spend effort. When deciding whether or not to continue with something, ask yourself this: if I were starting from scratch today, would I still invest in this person, this job, or this project? If the answer is no, then it does not matter how much effort you put in the past, it is time to let it go. Number 3. Look for contrary evidence. Don't let your brain trick you. If you strongly believe something, stubbornly go out of your way to read articles that prove it wrong, and listen to people who have the opposite opinion, your brain will automatically want to run away from them, so you have to consciously push forward. Number 4. Stop labeling people or situations based on one shiny trait. A great smile does not mean an honest character. Evaluate events and people as separate, individual packages. And finally, always give yourself and the people around you the power of choice. The feeling of control is the most powerful medicine for taking the stress out of life. Once you recognize these mental traps, it becomes really hard to fall down the same holes twice. You know that moment when you take a deep breath and say, man, I'm so glad I stopped and thought about that. Well, the whole goal of this video was to give you more of those moments. I hope this was helpful.